Welcome back to Smart Stock Sam, the channel where we cut through the noise and get straight to the trades that matter. I'm your host, and today we are going deep on Bitmine Immersion Technologies, ticker symbol BMNR. This video is going to walk you through everything: the jaw-dropping treasury numbers, the genius infrastructure they've built to turn those holdings into income, the institutional money quietly piling in, the technical setup for the week of May 4th, and the exact price levels you need to watch. We are going to cover the bull case, the risks, the options battlefield, and the short squeeze math, all of it. If this is the kind of deep dive analysis that makes you a sharper investor, do me a favor right now. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a breakdown like this. Let's get into it. To understand the full scope of what BMNR is doing, you have to start with the raw numbers. And they are genuinely staggering. As of May 2026, this company has built a total asset base of $13.3 billion. The centerpiece of that balance sheet is a world record holding for any public company, 5.078 million Ethereum tokens. Now, most investors hear a number like that and think, okay, big bag, so what? Here's the so what. They are not just sitting on it. BMNR has already deployed between 73 and 83% of that treasury into active staking. They are projecting a maximum annualized staking reward of $363 million. Think about that for a second. They have transformed their balance sheet, which most companies treat as a static storage vault, into a dynamic revenue-generating engine. That is the foundational shift that separates BMNR from every other crypto-adjacent company in the public markets right now. But how did they get here? Because just a few years ago, this was a relatively standard Bitcoin-centric mining operation. The story of how they pivoted is what management calls the Alchemy of 5%. And it is one of the most ambitious corporate strategies I have ever come across. The goal is to own 5% of the total global Ethereum supply. They are already at 4.2% and closing fast. What makes this accumulation even more remarkable is the timing. In a single week earlier this year, they added 101,000 ETH to their treasury. 1 week. And they did this while Ethereum was down 22.8% year to date. While retail investors were selling their positions and retail sentiment was bleeding red, BMNR was treating every single price dip like a liquidation sale at their favorite store. That is not panic, that is conviction. That is a long-term thesis being executed with cold, calculated precision. And the question you have to ask yourself is, what do they know that the average investor doesn't? Now, accumulating Ethereum is one thing, but what is the engine that actually converts those holdings into real, recurring income? That brings us to MAVAN, the Made in America Validator Network. This is BMNR's proprietary staking infrastructure, and it is the technological moat that puts serious distance between them and every passive holding competitor in this space. Take a company like MicroStrategy, a fantastic vehicle for passive Bitcoin appreciation, but they don't generate yield from their holdings. BMNR does. Right now, they have approximately 3.7 to 4 million ETH actively staked through MAVAN, generating around $264 million in current annual revenue. And because they own and operate the validator infrastructure themselves, they are not paying middlemen. They are not dependent on third-party platforms. They are essentially running their own bank, their own yield farm, and their own infrastructure provider, all under one roof. The staking rewards get recycled directly back into the treasury, compounding their position over time. It is a circular economy of wealth, and once you see it, you can't unsee why this model is so powerful. But here's where the story gets even more interesting, and potentially even more explosive for long-term investors. BMNR isn't just a crypto play. They have been quietly building a web of strategic acquisitions that are turning them into something much larger. They spent $30.5 million acquiring Pier 2 Holdings, which provided the blockchain infrastructure foundation for MAVAN. Smart, foundational move. Then they went significantly bigger, deploying $200 million into Beast Industries, giving them a major stake in enterprise-grade blockchain scaling solutions. And then there is the one that really made me sit up straight, a $91 million position in Eightco Holdings. Why does Eightco matter? Because Eightco gives BMNR indirect exposure to OpenAI and cutting-edge artificial intelligence integrations. They are not just buying crypto, they are buying the picks and shovels of the next technological era: blockchain infrastructure, enterprise scaling, and AI in a single portfolio. Could this combination become the most important diversified tech holding of the next decade? It is not impossible, not even close. Now, even with all of that going for them, none of it matters if institutional investors don't trust the books. And this is where BMNR just made a series of moves that genuinely signal they are ready to play in the big leagues. On April 9th, they uplisted to the New York Stock Exchange. That is not a minor milestone. That is a graduation ceremony. It opens the door to massive liquidity pools and institutional mandates that literally cannot touch over-the-counter or smaller exchange listings. Then, on April 27th, they dismissed their previous auditor and brought in KPMG LLP, one of the Big Four global accounting firms. That single decision sends a message to every pension fund, every endowment, every institutional allocator that was watching from the sidelines. Our books are clean, our governance is solid, and we are ready for your capital. These two moves in the span of less than 3 weeks represent a deliberate, systematic de-risking of the investment story. They are not just asking for institutional trust, they are earning it. And the institutional response? Already happening. Vanguard Capital Management now holds a 5.13% stake, over 23 million shares. The State of Michigan Retirement System recently increased their BMNR holdings by over 141%. Let me say that again. A state pension fund increased their position by 141%. These are not speculative traders chasing momentum. These are fiduciaries with long-term mandates who go through months of due diligence before deploying a single dollar. The fact that they are adding, not trimming, tells you everything about where the smart money sees this going. And Tom Lee, the company's chairman, has publicly stated that Ethereum is the modern wartime store of value. When a figure of that credibility is making that kind of statement while buying more, you pay attention. Let's zoom out to the macro environment, because BMNR doesn't operate in a vacuum, and the winds blowing at their back right now are significant. Ethereum is currently consolidating near $2,300, but it needs a sustained break above $2,400 to catalyze a meaningful BMNR rally toward the $25 price level. On the regulatory front, all eyes are on the U.S. Senate for the Clarity Act, legislation that would establish the first real federal framework for stablecoins and digital assets. If this passes, it is not just a policy win. It is a massive institutional de-risking event that would unlock billions of dollars in sideline capital that is currently waiting for legal clarity before entering the space. Layer on top of that the easing geopolitical tensions we've seen with US-Iran peace dialogues creating a broader risk-on environment, and the macro backdrop could not be more favorable for high-beta assets like BMNR. Is it possible that everything lines up perfectly? The Clarity Act, a geopolitical calm, and an Ethereum breakout, all at the same time? Probably not all at once. But even one or two of those catalysts firing could be transformative. Now let's talk about what the chart is telling us right now, because the fundamentals are only half the equation. The Relative Strength Index is currently sitting at 59.03. That number is critical. It shows meaningful upward momentum, but it is not yet in overbought territory, which means there is still room to run before any technical exhaustion. The MACD just flashed a short-term trend reversal signal at 0.10, and the low volatility reading from the average true range suggests the stock is in consolidation mode, the classic calm before the storm that experienced traders have learned to recognize and respect. Underneath the price, we have a double layer of structural support. The 50-day moving average sits at $21.61, and the long-term 200-day moving average sits just below that at $21.10. We recently saw a bullish crossover with the 20-day moving average pushing upward through resistance. As long as price holds above $21.10, The long-term bullish thesis is fully intact. That moving average level is your line in the sand. If it breaks, reassess. If it holds, the setup remains compelling. What about the short sellers? Could a squeeze send this thing parabolic overnight? The data says it's unlikely. And actually, that's the good news. Short interest recently fell 25.3%. Only 5.1% of the float is currently shorted, and with a days-to-cover ratio of just 0.6, there simply isn't enough short pressure to create a mechanical squeeze event. But here is the positive interpretation. Any future price appreciation in BMNR will be driven by real fundamentals and genuine institutional buying, not a temporary, squeeze-driven spike that collapses just as fast as it appeared. That is healthy. That is sustainable. The options market is where the truly fascinating battle is taking shape. On the downside, there is a massive put wall at the $19 and $20 strikes, over 14,000 contracts combined. That level of put concentration acts as a structural floor. It is extremely difficult for the price to fall through that much embedded support without a significant and sustained macro shock. On the upside, institutional call volume is stacking up at the $25 strike. The put-to-call ratio of between 0.85 and 0.93 confirms a slight but meaningful bullish bias. The big money has declared its target. $25 is the moonshot level, and the options market is positioning for it. We also need to address the Whipsaw event that rattled some investors in late April. On April 24th, a registration for 501,545 shares hit the market from former Pier 2 owners, triggering a short-lived panic as traders feared a massive supply overhang. The stock took a hit. But here is what matters. By April 28th, that share registration was officially withdrawn. The dilution threat evaporated. Price bounced straight back above the 200-day moving average, and the structural support held exactly where it was supposed to. There are still some lingering liquidity needs from early investors to monitor, but the immediate existential risk has been neutralized. If anything, this episode proved the thesis. When fear hit, the structure held. So here is your actionable game plan for the week of May 4th. For aggressive entries, you are looking at the $21.80 to $22 range, right around the current close and the $21.89 pivot level. If you prefer to be more conservative, wait for a pullback into the $21.10 to $21.50 zone, where the moving averages provide a high-confidence support floor. Your first major resistance level is $22.16. Clear that with conviction, and the next target is $23.50, a high-volume call strike. Get through that, and the $25 moonshot is wide open. On the downside, $20 is your psychological hard floor, reinforced by that enormous put wall. Your stop loss should sit at $19.80 to protect capital from any unexpected macro shock. The overall verdict for the week of May 4th is bullish. Buy the dips toward $21.10, stop at $19.80, target $24 and above, triggered by a sustained close above $22.20. Long-term, the thesis only gets stronger with time. A $13.3 billion asset base, nearly $400 million in annual staking rewards on the horizon, a Big Four auditor, a New York Stock Exchange listing, and institutional money that is actively increasing, not decreasing, its exposure. BMNR isn't just riding the wave of the next crypto expansion cycle. They own the infrastructure it runs on. Before we wrap, I want to be absolutely clear. Everything discussed in this video is for educational and informational purposes only. Nothing here constitutes financial advice, and I am not a licensed financial advisor. All investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Crypto-adjacent stocks like BMNR carry amplified volatility and are not suitable for all investors. Always do your own due diligence. Consult a qualified financial professional before making any investment decisions, and never invest money you cannot afford to lose. All right, Smart Stock Sam Family. That is the full breakdown on BMNR. Now here's the question I want you to answer in the comments below. Do you think BMNR's strategy of continuous accumulation of Ethereum is a sustainable long-term competitive moat, or does it expose them to cash flow risks that most investors aren't pricing in? Drop your thoughts down below. I genuinely read every single comment, and I want to hear where you stand. If this video gave you value, please hit the like button. It helps this channel more than you know. And if you aren't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a deep dive like this one. And if you really want to support the channel and help us keep producing this level of research for free, you can send a super thanks right here on YouTube using the support button below the video. Every single one of those means the world to us and keeps Smart Stock Sam going. Until next time, stay sharp, stay disciplined, and as always, smart money moves first.